Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, where it's kind of dark in here. There we go. It's his face is just pulling the camera focus here and saying it. We don't need all that light, but we do. Today's episode is about the documentary Fauci, simply named Fauci, not Dr. Fauci, not Dr. Anthony Fauci, but Fauci. And this is the man. You might recognize his face and his name from the news if you paid attention to the news over the last pandemic or so. Um, this is I'm gonna do my best not to be political. It's gonna be very difficult because I do hold an opinion, and but I will tell you, it will probably become apparent no matter what. It doesn't matter. But the point is, this is a documentary about the man that you've probably seen a whole lot about and probably have an opinion about one way or the other. Um, I'm going to highly recommend this documentary to give you an idea of who he is, um, in his own words, in the words of the people that surround him through his work and his family life, and people who have dealt with him, both friends and enemies in the worlds of medicine. And we're not just talking about this pandemic. This man's been working at the National Institute of Health and among other parts of, how do you say, my brain's not working too good. I've had COVID. If you watch some of my videos from last year, a little bit more than a year ago, yeah, it was not good. But I survived, which is good, even before a vaccine. Anyway, yeah, he's there's a lot of people who have strong opinions going back to the 80s and into the 2000s and today, but for very different reasons. You might remember people threatening his life, having uh, calling him a murderer, having demonstrations, asking for him to be fired. That was the 80s, and that was AIDS, the AIDS epidemic. Yeah, there was a time when the AIDS, the gay community, amongst others, including so many people who saw AIDS as something that was going to get them because of the all them gays in the country, and it was it was an excuse for many people to go, hey, we should discriminate. We should not discriminate on certain people, but some people we should discriminate against. It became fuel for the fire, to say, hey, look, this disease is dangerous. It's harmful. It's deadly. There's no cure, and it gave them a target on one side. On the other side, you had a number of gay activists, part of the group ACT UP, who were extremely angry at the doctors and the people in the National Institute of Health, and how they weren't doing anything, including especially Dr. Fauci, who they saw as an enemy, a murderer, a man who has the power to do something and did nothing. And they were right. And it was it was how that conflict was resolved that changed how vaccines, how treatment, how research is done when it comes to specific communities, especially the gay community, who were primarily, not exclusively, but primarily affected by the spread of AIDS and HIV, um, especially in the 80s through the 90s. And you get to speak to a lot of the people who were the most critical of him, who were out for his blood, his throat. They were ready to throttle him because uh, they saw him as a man who could do something, but wasn't doing it. But he did something eventually. Eventually, we see him. We see footage a little bit from the time when they had to deal with not just diseases here, but specifically affecting the continent of Africa, with Ebola, and how Ebola eventually made its way here during the Obama administration. We get to see he was on the forefront of that. And of course, we get to see and hear a lot from the people who are praising and critical of the man during the coronavirus pandemic of the past few years. That is still ongoing as of this filming. It is still relevant. It has subsided a bit. There are new variants seemingly all the time. Um, our protocols are constantly changing, or we just give up. We just say, it's gone, it's not affecting us. And we just don't listen to anything. There's also, they address the fact that he was part of Trump's team early on, and the mistakes were made at all levels. And the message, especially in regards to messaging, when it came to how to handle this pandemic. It was not just a Trump thing. It was definitely a Fauci thing. But it addresses very much his character, this entire documentary, which is from 2021. It's an hour and 45 minutes long. I can't believe I forgot to say all of that because I was rambling about other stuff at the beginning. So this very much addresses the fact that he is not infallible. Even though there's merchandise that makes him look like a saint, he is not. There is a lot of footage that paints him as a demon. There's a lot of footage that paints him as a monster and a truth teller and a person who is assumed to be running for political office. There are an awful lot of liars and truth tellers in this. And I'm going to encourage you to watch this. And you might say, well, this is definitely going to be biased in his defense, and it's make him look good. It's a propaganda piece. I would before you make that assumption, I would suggest you watch it. If you have any questions about who Anthony Fauci is, what his motivations are, who he is as a person, even as a political figure, even though it's apparent that he isn't really. He has a job within the government that requires him to tell the truth about such things, even when it makes his bosses not like him very much. I wonder who that one it might have been. But and you can tell if honestly, if you think he's lying, well, you can make that determination yourself based on your biases and what you watch in this. But I would suggest, regardless of what you think about the man, to watch this with an open mind and go and just understand where we are, who we are, when we speak his name, when we say his name. When somebody takes his name in vain, he's not God. When people say, honestly, for many, that's a swear word. That's a thing just to spit from your mouth, as venomous bile. And others, they see it as a word of praise, and it's something that is immediately you can trust in that name. But he's a man, either way. So, I'm going to recommend seeing this. When I saw this yesterday, I really was like, do I go through with this? Do I just talk 3 minutes and just cut out and go, all right, because just to avoid being political. Yes, I got a fairly bit political in this one, but I could have gotten so much worse. So, I say. I keep saying this. I know I'm saying it over and over and over again, but give it a watch. If you're understanding, if you have a certain understanding how you think this man is, who this man is, why he does the things he does. And I say, you know what? If you think that in any part of this is untrue, or it's enhanced or manipulated in a way that is not honest. Oh God, I'm not asking for comments on something political on my post. God, I don't want to do that. But think about it. Do some research. Do your own research. Yeah, amongst your biased sources. But no, I can't think of something that would be closer to understanding this man than this documentary, because the media, the news, is going to always get its own take on things based on these days, this pandemic. But this man's been around and dealt with a whole lot more crap than you can possibly understand. More than I understood. Let's just say that. I didn't know all that he dealt with, and what was going on, and what he faced from both sides of the aisle, and the immense changes that he and his colleagues made in medicine, in treating things, in changing things for the better, to keep people alive. So yeah, it's this is not a light one, but yeah, this is a National Geographic documentary, so give it a shot. That's all I can say. I've said it way too many times. It does, by the way, it's one of the few F-bombs. He speaks one of the few F-bombs one time that you can see on Disney Plus. That's my little trivia piece right here. When it comes to talking about the death threats that came against his family and his children as a result of him being who he is, speaking against the uneducated, ignorant words of the president. Yeah, he got death threats. His children were threatened. And so he's a little bit upset. He's a little bit blunt when he speaks about that. So yeah, he drops an F-bomb when he talks about threats made against his family, and I understand that. I fucking understand that. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
379.
379. 379. Okay. Okay. This seems like it would be a movie title, but it is. It's one of the it falls under documentaries. So 379 is Race to the Center of the Earth. I don't know if that's a single episode, like, kind of documentary movie, or if it's a full-on series. We'll see tomorrow. Race to the Center of the Earth on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.